May I have your attention, please? We'd like to call to order the Board of Trustees meeting. At this time, before we adopt the agenda, are there any additions we would like to add to the agenda, consent agenda proposed?
I'd like to add to the reconsideration of the coaching schedule that's been pre-approved, I think in a previous meeting on the 30th, was it?
Okay.
For reconsideration and discussion.
Okay.
Did that on the 14th.
For the 14th?
The coaching supplement schedule was done at call board meeting.
On the 14th. Okay.
You wanted, we'll add that as a 21 for discussion. 21 would be discussion of supplements. Are there any other? Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda?
I would like to, Mr. Chairman, to talk about the memorandum of understanding with the city whenever we get to that point. And we had...
We'll pull
Okay,
that, it's under consent, we can just pull it.
No other additions? Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the agenda presented with the addition of coaching supplement discussion.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. At this time will be the only time I can tell Judge Price that he only has 10 minutes to speak. So, Judge, at this time, you have 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here. Ms. Capper. Ms. Capper heard this rant I'm fixing to perform the other day at the Rotary Club, so it may be old news to her.
Not at all.
For the last 25 years, I've either been the county prosecutor or the youth court judge, which means for 25 years, I've handled every disciplinary problem we've had in Warren County and Vicksburg. It is a shame and a disgrace with what has happened to discipline in our public schools in the last 3 years. A terrible mistake was made. A terrible mistake was made. I spent 4 years with Donald Oaks getting discipline at Vicksburg High and Warren Central. I spent 3 or 4 years with James Price getting that discipline. Youth court and the school systems were joined at the hip. And every bit of that hard work for 8 years has gone down the tubes in the last 3 years. And when you start that downward spiral, and you're dealing with kids in the time frame they operate under, it is terribly, terribly hard to regain discipline. That's what I'm talking to you about today, is the discipline in the public schools, which is probably the #1 topic overall of the citizens of this community. When we had those two administrators, and we had Agnes Lyles, and we had Johnny Walls, we had people that knew they were disciplinarians, and they had administrators in the schools, the principals and assistant principals that knew there was going to be discipline. I have ordered 12 years ago, under 4 circumstances, the resource officers to bring children immediately from these 2 junior highs and high schools directly to detention in Warren County. That is an order that's standing, and they know it. If a child brings narcotics on a school campus, he ought to be taken off the school campus within minutes and brought to detention so we can make a determination on what to do. Bring a weapon, have an extraordinary fight, and I'm talking about a big fight, or any disrespect for any adult, cafeteria lady, school bus driver, anybody, any act of aggression toward an adult, that child should be taken off that campus instantly. And that was done in the 8 years I'm talking about. In the last 3 years, nothing was done. I brought one case here that in this last April, I made myself a note on this child's file. See Dr. Swinford about this coming to us, but she left before I could get out here. So when she resigned, I said, I'll come out and tell her. This is a child that spent all year in y'all's school and had 59 absences, either he's unexcused or in detention, 59 days. In addition to that, this child was written up 38 times for insubordination, profane language, calling teachers an MF, and just being completely out of control. The school brought this to me on April the 5th, 1 month before school was out. That is disgraceful. This kid should have been brought to the youth court the first time he called a teacher a MF. Now, if the school principals and teachers are going to put up with that conduct, we're in sad shape. That leadership on that discipline comes from the top. And in the last 3 years, you have had no support for discipline. Now that administrator is gone, and we're sitting here dealing with the crumbs. I'm dealing with the kids that have been cast aside so that administrator could pass through this town and go to a higher paying job, and we're left with the fallout. And your supervisors are asking you to now build a $30 million new jail to handle the crumbs that have been left behind. That is a disgrace. I cannot tell you, I've got a staff, y'all are paying me $600 and something thousand a year for staff at youth court with a 30-bed detention facility to deal with these kids. And to not use it is absolutely criminal. How anybody could turn their back on a child that is out of control and not bring that child to accountability so that child can succeed for the rest of the year is disgraceful. The difference between Donald, and I'm not here to blow Donald and Jim Price's horn. I'm here to show you what worked and what don't work. They were born and raised in Vicksburg. They went and worked through the system all their life. And they retired in this community. They're stakeholders. They've got an interest in this community. They're not trying to run through here and build up a resume and then go get another no-cut contract in some other county. They're here. I urge y'all, in considering the next superintendent, to have some person that is so strong on discipline. I mean, I'm not speaking anything on education. I know nothing about that. But I know I can get control of these kids. We just had 8 of the worst kids you ever thought you had in this public school system just graduate from high school at Camp Shelton. I just had somebody in the parking lot thank me for saving their kid. I had a former teacher come through here and thank me for putting his son in the penitentiary. We've got a youth court system in this town that works, it's effective, and we're there every day. The life of a school child, if a school child gets caught with a gun at 10, and 10 minutes after 10, Billy and Mike Oops and them ought to have that kid locked in detention. I send the kid to get a psychiatric evaluation, find out what we're dealing with, and he doesn't return to the public schools until we are satisfied. We're not a lock them up, throw away the key. We're rehabilitation. I've got 2 minutes. I want to invite every one of y'all, and I understand Ms. Bullard's not here. We have youth court every Tuesday and Thursday, and we have 30 or 40 cases. A youth court case doesn't take but about 7 minutes. I'm going to have Rachel Hardy or one of my assistants call out here, and y'all are invited, just like every grand jury does, to sit in that, don't sit there 10 minutes. I want you to sit there a couple hours, and you'll watch about 20 cases, and you see what we're dealing with. If these elementary school teachers, who I have tried to talk to before, won't bring these children to us early, to where that discipline is instilled in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, 7th and 8th grade's too late. That's where we used to have the bottlenecks as the 2 junior highs. Now it's so spiraled out of control over at the 2 high schools that it's going to take a massive effort to gain control. But you're paying $600,000 for youth court, and we're willing to get it back under control. But I have got to have the support of the administrator. The last administrator I invited to come over to youth court, 7 months after she was sworn in, she came to youth court. I never saw that lady again. And I know what she told some of these principals. Forget youth court. That's a shame. I would encourage y'all to come over. I want you to sit there a couple hours. We'll do it on a time that's convenient for y'all. You watch and see what we're dealing with, and you'll see how close the coordination has to be. I have the school disciplinary record of every kid I deal with, the attendance record, and everything else. And if I find out it's the parent goes to jail. But the earlier I can get them, the better off we're all going to be. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Chairman, we'll call for additions and deletions to the minutes of May 30th and June 14th. Are there any additions or deletions? Not hearing any, I move that we approve the minutes of May 30th and June 14th.
There's a motion. Is there a motion?
Yes, I said I move.
Okay, is there a second? It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Oaks?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate Judge Price coming. He and I have met already, and I can assure you we will continue to meet as we go through this transition period. A couple of things here. Number one, before we get to Mr. McClung and the financial report, for information purposes, yesterday we had an incident at Sherman Avenue in which a water fountain, or not a water fountain, but a water in a laboratory, the whole faucet blew off of it, and it blew a hole in the roof, and then, not in the roof, but in the ceiling tile, and then blew it through the, above that ceiling tile at Sherman, there's a sheetrock fire barrier, and it blew a hole in that. So it's got good water pressure. Great water pressure. Besides which, it flooded a pretty good area out there, and I can't remember, Coach Wright, who it was that found it, but somebody found it, and we got people out there and got the water turned off, and there was a good bit of damage. We had some teacher supplies, and we're still trying to evaluate that. And the teachers are going to go through that and see how much of it can be used. But we also possibly lost 8 laptops. Now, I'm not real sure that going through a washing machine is great for laptop life, but we turned them up and let the water drain out, and hopefully we can reclaim some of them. I'm not real encouraged about that. We also have, because of the way the water sprayed a smart board like is on this back wall, the sheetrock got wet. You know what happens to sheetrock when it gets wet? It mushed out, and this thing fell, besides which it was full of water. The projector part of it that's on that arm, when they picked it up or turned it loose or got it off the wall, it ran water out of it. So I'm really not encouraged that we're going to be able to save any of that equipment. Bottom line is, right now, it looks like we got at least about $12,000 damage that we're going to have to repair. And a lot of that will depend on whether any of these computers or the projector for the smart board can be reclaimed. That's for your information on that. One more thing before Dale excuse me, Mr. McClung. I've had a real tough time the last 2 weeks remembering that you're supposed to call people by Mr. and Doctor. Because I'm older than everybody here and everybody in this office. And Dr. Winters, where is he? Where is Dr. Winters? You know, I remember him from junior high, so. Anyway, Mr. Stewart here and from the paper and I met and we discussed, and he's going to do an article. Some of you may be aware of House Bill 2 that was passed in this recent legislative action that in effect allows people to carry weapons as long as they're open. In other words, if part of the weapon is exposed, then you can walk down Washington Street with your .45s on your hip and be perfectly legal. You're illegal if you conceal them without a license, but you can carry them openly. And we won't really get into the wisdom of that law. My concern has been, since I found out about this, is to make sure that everybody understands that the law specifically says you cannot do that on school grounds or any school place of activity, like a football game or anything like that. Mr. Stewart is going to be publishing an article about that, and we're going to try to make sure we get this message across. Now, the overwhelming majority of the people that come to our school to visit and to see about their children don't come in wearing .45s on their hip, hopefully. But we want to make sure that everybody understands. Now, if you come onto that school ground openly displaying a weapon, then I don't know what the law says we can do with you, but we're going to get you off. Whether it's arrest you, run you off, or whatever. Call Miss Stevens, she'll get you off. But the point is, I want everybody to understand that. I've talked to the sheriff. You may have seen in the paper yesterday where the city hall passed a resolution that you can't carry a weapon in city hall and city buildings. I don't think we have to do that. I think the law is specific enough, and we've got some Attorney General opinion that says you can't bring them onto a school ground. So I just want to make sure everybody understands it, and we'll be saying that more often. We may even invest in a few signs to put in each school to remind people that this is in effect a gun-free zone. Just that's for information purposes too. Now, Mr. McClung.
Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Y'all received financial information in your, I guess, at your desk, online, however you choose to receive it. Any questions about that particular information before I start with the chart and graph presentation? If not, each month I prepare a packet of information that deals with our ad valorem tax collection and where we stand each month. This information is through May 31st, 2013. The first page is a chart of maintenance, homestead exemption, and negotiable notes, and you'll see that we budgeted for this year $26,257,854. We have received $25,194,118.92. That's 95.95% of what we budgeted to receive. And we have left to receive $1,063,735.08. Next page is a bar chart, so to speak, of this information showing that we have about reached that amount that we budgeted. Next chart is a chart that allows us to compare our receipts for this current year to all the years from 2009 through the current year. And you'll note that over on the right-hand side, we've got 95.95% of what we budgeted In the immediate past year, it's 99.28. So we're on target as far as not being concerned about our ad valorem receipts at this point in time. The next page is a bar chart that shows how our dollars flow into the district beginning in August and ending in July. And it shows a major portion of each of these years that we receive is in January, February, and March. Next chart of cash receipts for May. And you'll see the date we received the dollars. It'll show the fund number where we will record the revenue and also track the expenses and the source of the funds, a description of the funds, and an amount. And this chart totals $4,336,966.75. The next chart is a statement of expenses for our main operational fund, which is Fund 1120. And this information is through May. You'll see that we budgeted in, I've got it broken down basically in 3 categories: instruction, support, and non-instructional. And we have budgeted for the instructional area $33,741,988. And the support services area, which is 2,000 function, $22,412,222. Non-instructional, $151,208. And you'll see the breakdown by the percentage of each one of those categories in the next column. The next column, totaling $4,403,794, is what we actually spent this month in May in those categories. And then to the right of that is just percentages of those items. And the next column is a column for the year-to-date that we spent with the percentages next to that. And the encumbrances are those items that we have ordered but have not yet received, but that's expense that will be incurred before the end of June. And then you have the budget balance totaling $8,062,949 and the breakdown of those percentages. And then you have a percentage of the actual month to what's left to be spent, and then the percentage of the actual year to be spent. The budget balance compared to the amount of budget. Next page is a page of interfund loans, and you'll note that we still are showing $311,884, which was transferred from 16th section interest to district to purchase band instruments back in October. Any questions on the chart, Brad? Thank you very much.
This time, we're going to have 3 public participation requests. Is a Miss Haggard or a Dr. Rankin or Miss White here? Dr. Rankin? Okay. Come on up, Dr. Rankin.
Is Ms. Haggard here?
Yes, Dr. Rankin is the only one here. You have 5 minutes, Doc. Okay. Oh, okay. You're here? Anybody? Okay, who? So we have Dr. Rankin and Miss White? Okay.
Thank you all for having me.
Shannon.
My name is Kimberly Rankin, and I'm a therapeutic optometrist here in Vicksburg. And what I'm proposing to you all is to form a partnership between my company, which is Rankin Eye Professionals, and the Vicksburg Warren School District. What we're proposing is to come into the schools and just provide vision screening for all of the students. The vision screenings will be free of charge. And when I say free, there's no cost for the parents, there's no cost for the student or the school district. All costs such as labor and the instrumentation will be paid for by our company. We feel that this is really important just because a child that does not see its best does not perform its best. And there are a lot of studies that show that between the ages of 5 and 17, 25% of those kids have a vision problem. And then also in that same age group, 79% haven't visited an eye care professional in the last 12 months, and 35% have never done so. So what we're hoping to do is just help bridge the gap that some of the kids are experiencing but not having access to that. The screening process would be really simple. The only thing that we would need basically is a contract that allows us on campus so that we can see the kids, and then we would then have permission slips that each parent would have to sign in order to allow us to perform the test. It's very quick. It only takes about a minute or two per child, so there will be minimal interruption as far as the studies and the classes, because we know that that is what is most important. Once the instrumentation is done, it's basically a photo screener is what it is. You take a photo and it tells whether that child falls outside of the normal range for their age. For each child, there would be a pass or a referral summary. And we would then give those summaries to the nurse or whoever you guys deem most appropriate to distribute that to the parents. We originally, in the information that we gave you, we were also asking for access in order to do the comprehensive examinations, but we decided that at this time, that is not something that we're interested in doing. Not because we don't want to have the kids examined, but there were inconsistencies with some of the insurances that would not allow us on campuses statewide right now anyway. And so we would have to just kind of pursue that over the next year and see if it's something that we can introduce. But the only thing that we're asking in return, for the most part, as far as doing the screening, is that ranking our professionals be given the credit for giving the screening, and that we are allowed to educate the parents on the regular schedule for eye examinations for the kids. Most parents know when their children should visit pediatrician, most know when they should go to the dentist, but very few have any ideas of what they need to do in order to take care of their vision. And 80% of a child's learning comes through what they see. I guess that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions at this time?
Now, are you proposing to screen or give every child the opportunity to be screened?
Give every child the opportunity.
And that would be done by parental permission before any screening?
There would be parental permission. We would give you, each child would have a permission slip, and they would be able to opt out, of course. That was something that they weren't interested in, because a lot of parents do take their kids to have their eyes examined, but we're just trying to reach those who don't know. You know, it's not that the parents wouldn't do it, they just don't know.
Okay, if you would, Dr. Rankin, if you would give Ms. Daniels your telephone number, and Mr. Oaks or Ms. Daniels will get back with you.
Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate you very much.
And then give them that that's outside.
Thank you.
We'd have to look at
Ms. White?
if they're bringing in instruments and things like that.
In 5 minutes, Ms. White. Yes, ma'am.
It was brought to our attention this week that Scholastic Academy is being reformed. Several conflicting things went out, Facebook, the newspaper, and so forth. There were several questions, and I've already forwarded Dr. Oaks to Shannon questions. The selection to Scholastic was supposed to remove it, and it was one of the questions was it done fairly enough for an even number of the South District and the Northern District schools to be accepted? If you're going to put it back into the junior highs, or Warren Junior, Vicksburg Junior to have their own scholastics, is it an even number that's going to be there? And how many kids will be in each class. There was a comment made at the parent meeting that the classes are not determined by grade level. It was asked for when the children will be accepted in the Scholastic Academy. How are they not determined by grade level? Another question was what time the school day, will it go the same as the junior high, or will it be as it was proposed for Scholastic? Uniforms, they said that Scholastic students should wear just white. Will that change? That should change the school, change it up now. Math. We were informed that the math classes the students would be placed in Algebra 1, and gradually, if they didn't grasp it, they would go back into pre-algebra. We had to sign permission for them to get into pre-algebra, and the teacher did as well. How do you skip pre-algebra and go into algebra for the 7th grade? The reading fair, reading projects. We're doing a lot of work for 5 projects for the summer. Do we still need to do this? Is our children that are going to be in Scholastic's Academy housed at each school, are there going to be other children in the classroom? Are they going to be separated? Will there be a parent meeting to let us know this information beforehand? Because seriously, my child's going to be extremely disappointed to be told, sorry, change your mind. And also will these students, Scholastic Academy students for their core classes, will they be kept separate or will they be intermingled with other kids? What is the proposed plan for reforming this and when will we get advised?
I saw your list of questions this afternoon for the first time. And it's a couple of pages, so I'm not going to try to answer them all here today. No, but we are going to make some changes in it. We're not going to make some changes in the fact that we're going to have the Scholastic Academy. We're going to provide for those kids. It's going to look a little different because we're going to keep it into 2 schools. Now, one of the things that I found out was that during the day, the students from Warren Junior would go over to the Vicksburg building, but then at times they would walk back over to Warren Junior, I think, for some of their elective courses. Is that correct? I mean, and then they'd walk back to the junior high, and then I think they came back to Warren Junior for lunch. Is that not correct?
Yes.
So we got, I don't know how much time we got moving back and forth.
That's true.
And one of the things that we're looking at is trying to eliminate those 4 extra bus routes. Now, we didn't eliminate the 4 extra bus routes just for that, but if we feel like we can accomplish the same thing within the school day, this is what we're going to do. Those kids, students, my wife jumps my case all the time by calling them kids, but those students are going to be grouped just like they were grouped. We're not going to intermingle. They're going to be just like they were grouped. They're going to be in a pod situation in the 2 schools, so they move among themselves, and the teaching will be what was done in the past. The only reform we've got is keeping them into 2 schools to try to get as much time on task within that school day. Now, it's still a work in progress because the 2 junior high principals are working on that. Among other things, that's one of the things I've been working with them with, and we will meet more. But Scholastic Academy parents need to rest assured that we're going to have that program. And they're going to be involved, as I said, with their kids. Now, I don't really think about this wearing white and wearing different colored uniforms. You know, I'm not real sure I go along with that because it's bad enough these kids they don't want to wear uniforms to start with. And I don't really see that we need to differentiate you wearing white and Lonzo wearing a different color, whatever that thing would be. That's the first I've heard about that. But my immediate reaction is that's probably not something I would conduct.
So should the students continue to do that?
They absolutely should continue. I know there was some stuff put out on Facebook that was misleading and confusing. They continue with their reading, they continue with their projects, and we're going to do this. And talked to Dr. Plitt yesterday. As soon as we get all of the nuts and bolts worked out, we're going to put together a letter, and we're going to mail merge it and send it to every parent of a student that we have in the Scholastic Academy to explain what's going to happen.
Would it be possible to call a meeting? I mean, if there's only 180 in it?
I don't have a problem with that. Let me send the letter out, and then if there's enough interest in a meeting, hopefully we'll be clear enough in what we say that we'll alleviate any fears anybody has. Now, I spent time on the telephone today with a young man who just got a child in Scholastic Academy. I don't have any secrets. We're going to do it, and we're going to be ready come August the 5th or 6th, whatever that date is, but we're still working on that.
Thank you. Because you
All right.
and my lady that answered the phone yesterday told me no,
So you know what?
that it was not going to exist.
Well, I don't know who told you that.
Whoever answered it was for junior high. lady.
Oh, we'll find out. But you believe me right now, unless they fire me tonight, and with what's going on, that very well happen.
Did you tell him?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
I've been here 2 weeks, so I might as well go home, right? I appreciate you coming, because I really want to clear that up.
It's I would hate to have to go home and tell my child he was a valedictorian in the 6th grade class. I'm sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
just tell you expected to be the valedictorian in the 7th grade.
I expected to be valedictorian in the 12th grade.
I hope I'm
Thank you.
around to shake his hand. Not as a superintendent. Let me say this, and some of you know me, and some of you don't. They wonder who I am. I don't have any problem talking to people. You can call me if you have a question. Now, if you get ugly with me, I'm lilac like Mary Louise, and you ugly back. And y'all wonder why I pick on her. From day one, when I went to Warren Junior 100 years ago, she met me at the door and told me she was going to teach me how to be an administrator. But seriously, I don't have a problem talking with anybody. Time gets to be an issue sometimes because you can get busy around here. But at the same time, I hope to alleviate any future. I don't want anybody to have a problem with it. Does that mean that I'm going to satisfy everybody in here tonight? Probably not. But don't hold that against me personally. Do it professionally, but not personally. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. This time under the 16th section, which is Section E, the approval of the hunting and fishing bid.
We have one bid, I think, Counselor, that the counselor is going to open and read aloud, and then at that point, y'all can take action.
Yes, sir.
This bid is submitted by Alex Baylott and Cindy Vanderberry. To pay annual rent in the amount of $4,050.
Are they the current leaseholder?
Is that just the lease for one, how long is the lease for?
5 years.
5 years?
5 years.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
This is the only bid.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the bid of Mr. Baylott and Ms. Vanderberry. They are the present leaseholders and satisfactory with the school system.
There is a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
We're deer hunting now.
Yes. At this time, Section 16, we have the approval of the timber sale on Goat Hill, and we
we got Mr. Walker with the Forestry Commission to answer any questions. This is a bid that was taken back in May, and it was tabled at that board meeting. And I believe there were some questions about the bid itself with reference to whether it's clear cut or whatever. But anyway, Mr. Walker, if you would step up to the mic, if there's any questions about the board members.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Do we have any 16 section land that's clear cut?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's part of management, but not an entire section, but we clear cut, 40 to 60, 70 acres at a time in different blocks across all the sections.
It wasn't me, but a fellow board member asked that question at one of the previous meetings. Was that good practices as far as forestry is concerned?
Yes, yes, sir. We clear cut, there's several different reasons, different factors that go into it, but the primary purpose is to get a younger stand growth. We're not clear cutting, just trying to get money or any of that kind of stuff. It's a management practice, every time you put them in the clear cut.
Thank you.
To go along with that, I'm sure y'all get to hear from your hunters that have clear cutting everything. But when we wrote the plan in 2012, the management plan, 62% of the school's timber across all the sections together is in soft timber to the size of that. A lot of people may think, oh, everything's clear cut. It's not all clear cut.
Good, thank you.
I think the important thing here to recognize is 16th section forestry land is managed by the Forestry Commission. And these are the professionals that know what they're doing. And their recommendation is what we generally go by, whether it's a clear cut or whether it's a thinning cut. Or I'm not a forester. I just know that with all the paperwork we got to have trees. So usually if you needed to explain what thinning cut is and so on, feel free. But I think we really do need to accept the recommendation. This bid by Capaya Forest Products is apparently a good bid, and we need, if the board so desires, to accept it so they can go ahead and get started on this.
You've heard the recommendation.
Yeah, I have one more question. I respect the fact that we're using the professional recommendation. I do question some of the clear cutting we've done in the past. It is, it's our job to make sure we are great stewards of those resources that we're given. And if you do clear cut, if it's not properly managed when you replant it, we're wasting time. Every day a tree's not growing is a day we're not generating $1 to go back in our district. I believe there was some done on Flowers Hill Road that is the most atrocious thing I've ever seen, but I'll yield to y'all's expertise that it was the right thing to do. But the biggest point I have is when these packets come before us to be approved, that we are not always receiving that direction, whether it's, I don't know if it's not provided or if it is provided and just left out, but we need the details of what's being asked for us to approve, whether it is clear cutting, whether it's select cut, whether it's thinning, a little more descriptions along with that process, and I think we could probably make a lot quicker decisions.
After the last meeting, when we sent the packet, the timber sale prospectus, is that?
Yes, that's great. That's
Did you
perfect.
get a copy of that?
That's exactly what we need.
Okay.
Thank you.
That'd be great. I'll make sure.
I have no further questions. I make a motion to accept the bid.
It's been moved and properly second. Do we have any other questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Whilst we have Mr. Walker up front here, under 16th section land improvement, he has an estimated expense and revenue. Do you have any questions for Mr. Walker on the land improvement?
Do your crews, Mr. Walker, plant trees immediately upon clear cutting?
It depends on the situation. With hardwood, if you plan properly, a lot of times you don't have to plan. Sometimes I plant in addition to what's out there naturally, just to make sure, I call it insurance, to make sure you got a plan. But you plan ahead, you look at it one before the cut, you look at it after the cut, see if it did what it was supposed to do, and then you make a determination, do we need to plant, do we need natural? If you're going to go with pine, you almost have to plant. But if you're going with hardwood, you got several different options there.
But even with clear cutting, there are X amount of volunteer trees that are gonna come up quickly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as a matter of fact, that's the way I generally try to go, is to get those natural seedlings, good quality. If we had a good seed source to begin with, that's a lot of times the best way to go, is your natural regeneration.
Thank you.
I remember correctly from 100 years ago that once you clear cut, it's about an 80-year cycle before you can cut again.
For
Saw logs.
Well, for maturity. Now, I'm trying to enter some of these stands that were clear cut in the late 80s, early 90s. I'm looking and believing with the improvements that we've made in technology and markets, and at age 25, going in and making the first cut. 35 probably soft timber.
Quicker than I thought.
Yeah, now maturity is 70, 60 to 80 years is maturity. But, so that, take that long to clear cut again. Every 10 to 15 years, once you make your initial thinning, if it's done properly, you can keep thinning, and then, get some maturity after regenerate.
So this is to authorize them to perform the services for the year.
In looking what's being proposed, it doesn't say that any regeneration or clear cuts or replants in that document. Am I seeing that correctly? It says on the minutes that it,
There's a letter that should be attached, and that lays out the regeneration cuts, and so that, your clear cuts versus your
Second page.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah.
and tree planting. Tree planting, we have 3 sections when we're doing some tree planting.
Okay. So the estimated expense for the fiscal year is going to be around $84,000 with be-out costs, and the estimated revenue will be right around $300,000. So do we have any other questions? Are we ready to vote? Do I hear a motion? Died for lack of a motion.
Well, can we do business without a motion?
No, sir.
Money.
Can't do anything.
County Forester needs to know whether to go to work or not go to work.
At this time,
Your plan is the best from your experience in getting funds to run the Vicksburg Warren School District. That's the best process in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll move that we go with the Forester's recommendation. We've had good success in the past.
there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
I'd just like to add too, that anytime y'all have any questions or concerns, feel free to give me a call. We can go take a look at a section. I'll be glad to, meet with you, go take a look at it, and show you what we're planning on doing.
Reason we're scrutinizing you, Mr. Walker, with the cutback in state funds from different agencies, we have become somewhat dependent on additional 16th section money. And so it's very important that we get as much 16th section money as we can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I have one more thing? I'd like to introduce my new technician, Jack Stewart.
How y'all doing?
And he's
Jack.
a graduate forester from Mississippi State, so one day he may be my boss.
Bless you.
Oh, and he's a Warren County native too.
Good to hear.
Okay. Last on the 16th section is a transfer of interest earned from the 16th section.
As I understand it, Mr. McClung, this has already been done, right?
Probably not until the board approves it. I'll let Dorothy speak to this.
All right, Ms. McInnes?
Every year we, every year we budget for this transfer, and this is the interest that the checking accounts have earned. Our principal checking account and our interest checking account with the 16th section. And you can see what we earned this year. And that amount would be transferred to district maintenance and put into our operating fund.
So we need to approve this for the state auditor's office.
Right.
What's the principal amount? The interest is
Now,
60,000 and 27,000. What's the,
The amount of principal that we have in the bank.
yes,
Okay, let's see, 16th section principal today, $3,848,198. And then the 16th section interest fund is $10,165,776.55.
okay, thank you. I make a motion that we accept the transfer.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and proper. Do we have any questions?
I do.
Questions?
Did I understand this, that the principal was less than the interest fund?
Yes, sir.
I'm a little deaf in my old age, but,
Yes, sir, you understood correctly.
okay, the principal is less than the interest.
Well, they're two different funds, and they have, I don't know, you probably need to go and read the definitions and.
So apparently you borrowed from one of those funds, is that right?
We can borrow from, we do cash flow loans from 16th section interest, which we can do, and we pay that back generally.
Okay.
The 16th section principal money has a different funding mechanism than what we get money for, like things that are non-renewable resources go into the principal account. We can borrow that money, but when we borrow it, it has to be for specific purposes, and we generally have our board attorney get involved in writing what we're borrowing that money for, and we have a payment schedule that we have to pay back. We have to pay 4% interest on that.
Thank you. So we can borrow from the interest fund, but not the principal.
Well, we can borrow from the principal fund and pay it back, or either we can just transfer from the interest fund and spend it however we would, for teacher salaries, for instance. You can
Thank you.
spend that money,
Thank you.
but it's not a practice I like to promote.
Any other questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. This time we're at, thank you, proposed consent agenda. Do we have any items that need to be pulled?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we had item 17.
Item 17.
Item 9.
Item 9.
That's all.
Do you have any to pull from Mr. Leviza?
No, 17 was the only one I had questions about.
Mr. Stevens? Okay.
Can I ask you to add number 10 to it because it kind of goes along with number 9.
Okay, will do. So is there a motion to accept the proposed consent agenda, except item 9, 10, and 17?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the proposed consent agenda with the exception of 9, 10, 17, and 21, which was added.
Thank you, I forgot to have that. Thank you. And 21. 9, 10, 17, and 21. Okay. There's a motion, is there a second?
I second.
Do we have any questions?
I have one last question, and I'll shut up. How many people hear about the ban and been a lot of calls about it, that's the reason I'm asking. Will that be discussed in 19?
No, sir.
So it was
That's
not
a different
answered
item.
to.
That's a different item.
It will not be discussed tonight because they are not on the agenda.
I understand.
Would you like to make a motion to amend the agenda?
No, sir.
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of public interest in what's happening, and I think a statement from the superintendent as to what he plans to do in that regard would ease a lot of people's minds. That's all I'm asking.
The only,
Public entity, yeah.
I understand, Mr. Levisor and Mr. Pratt, but on the public participation at board meetings, it specifically says here that whoever wants to talk, they should, the group, individual, shall mail, hand carry, a written request, a form provided by the office of the superintendent. The request shall be received in the office of the superintendent no later than 10 working days. Now, if we're not going to follow the rules, we'll just let everybody come when they want to talk, and we can get rid of the board policy.
It's 48 hours, not 10 days.
Nobody
I'm
asked
just
to
reading- I'm
speak.
just
I
reading what
asked
this-
a question, Mr. Chairman.
You're the wrong one.
Okay. I stand to be corrected. We're 48 hours, but we still don't have anyone to come within 48
No,
hours.
the point was to put it on the agenda for the superintendent to address the issue, not necessarily to have public comment. There's nothing wrong with changing the agenda to allow, for us to have discussion about it and for the superintendent to address the issue. That's not public comment. These people are here for public support, but they do have to follow that policy to speak at that microphone. But there's nothing to prohibit us from adding an item to our agenda and discussing it amongst ourselves.
Well, again, I'm speaking of public comment because he asked about public comments,
Okay,
so I'm
I'm sorry.
reading about public comments.
I wasn't asking for permission for anyone to speak. I was asking for information to put people at ease because we work for them, and they need to know what's happening in the schools.
Mr. Levisor, would you like to, I'd like to make a motion that we add
Well,
item.
we have a motion on the floor right now, so let's finish that motion with 9, 10, 17, and 21, and then you can go back and make
Okay.
another motion. So there's a motion on the floor.
Do I need to withdraw my motion for you to add an item?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. Motion on the floor.
Okay? Are you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose like sign. Motion carries. Okay?
I'd like
Now.
to make a motion that we amend the current agenda to have item 22 for discussion. Current changes to staffing of our fine arts program.
Current changes for staffing for what?
Fine arts program.
Okay, fine arts.
You've heard a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are you ready to vote? Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Pose like sign. Motion carries.
We're going to deal with those as a full first.
Yes, sir.
Item 9 is the student handbooks. We had hoped to get them in your hands much sooner than we did, but I hope you all got a copy of the student handbook and was able to spend some time with it. What I need tonight, any discussion you have about the handbook, that's fine. But we need to go ahead and get these handbooks approved by the board. because to print them up and have them ready in a month, we're going to wear out a couple of Xerox machines and a print press. Our point here is this: all principals, Dr. Winters, you tell me if I'm wrong when I say this, all principals have approved these handbooks.
They reviewed and they've signed a statement saying that they read it and understand it.
All right. To me, that is important. They know what's in this handbook. Now, as far, if you adopt them here tonight, as long as I'm here, they're going to be held to this handbook. I know everybody sitting down in the audience hasn't seen the handbook yet. Trust me. The point is this: if we adopt this handbook, then we're going to go by it. I have looked through it. I hope the board members have looked through it. I hope the statement that I'm fixing to make is a fair one. If it's not, y'all disagree with me. There is nothing in these handbooks that works a hardship on any student. Does it want them to behave? Absolutely. Does it want them to come to school? Yes, indeed. Does it want to be in time for class? Yes. But does it work a hardship? I see nothing in these handbooks that work a hardship. You heard Judge Price. It will work a hardship on a student who does not follow the rules. I want everybody to be happy. But I want you to follow the rules, because a safe and orderly environment is what we need. These handbooks lay it out for everybody. Every student will get one. Hopefully they'll be gone over within the class. So if there's any question, people understand. We're asking that you approve them so that it has the force of the board's authority when we pass them out.
The only question I had was on page 21 of your high school secondary handbook. I think it's page 21. We have so many kids in here, the internet's not working real well, so all the smartphones need to go off. I'm just joking. But page 21 actually has to do with telephones, cell phones in the district and in the school, and it refers to they can't be on or visible. And I think has this changed at all since the current year? I don't believe so. Is that correct, Mr. Krill?
I don't think we changed it at all.
The reason is we're kind of giving our students two different messages. One is that they're told in the handbook, we're telling them this, you just said, this is what we're going to live by, we're going to hold everyone accountable to it. But we have teachers that actually use those devices as part of the educational experience. Then we have teachers that don't allow them in the class. And I think the policy ought to reflect the fact that it's up to the teacher to have a sign in the room so that child clearly knows that this class will use them under their direction and under certain circumstances, or they are not allowed in that class, because we're sending a mixed message. It's kind of like having a speed limit sign on the road that you can follow it today or maybe we follow it tomorrow. It needs to be consistent so we're not giving our students a mixed message.
Mr. Pratt, doesn't that lean towards requiring people who don't have as many resources as some others to
No, they
require their
actually
kids
use
to
them in a
buy?
collaborative method. The teachers that have used them in the past have used them in a collaborative method where a group of students will use one person's phone, or the student might be allowed to use a calculator in their phone to average their grades, look a word up, those
I'm
kind
not
of.
against them being used. I just don't want to penalize the students that don't quite have as much money available to them to pay for
I think you'd be surprised.
Well, I'm not. I was a principal for 35 years.
Is there
I
a
know
child in
there's
this
lot
room
of
without a
kids
smartphone? That's one. Two. Okay.
I can't believe you're abusing your child like that, I'm not giving them a smartphone.
There you-
Coach, on the same line with Mr. Pratt, we got both the high school principals here. How many of the teachers in both of your buildings that does that have that done in their class?
It's about 50-50 for me.
I would agree.
See, so to say they can't be used at all or seen at all, it really means it can't be used at all unless specified and allowed by the teacher.
I don't have a problem with
Okay,
that.
that's the only thing I say. I just want a clear message, because when you take it from them, they leave one classroom and they're allowed to have it, the next classroom they're not. They need to know that.
You have to understand, I come from a generation where the phone had a crank on it.
They didn't do this? No, we had the crank.
Redwood, we had one phone had a crank on it. Seriously, I don't have a problem with that. Jamie, Mr. McDonald, do we simply insert in this a statement that cell phones cannot be used and turned off unless approved for use in the classroom by the teacher?
Yep.
Something to that effect.
Yep. If we make those changes, I'll make a motion and we accept the handbook.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Do we have any other questions? With the changes that were asked by Mr. Pratt to be inserted, all in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
And I thank you, Mr. Pratt, for calling it to my attention, because I missed that, I really did. Shannon's trying to show me how to use mine. In conjunction with that, you had a bus drivers, monitors, operators handbooks. Coach Wright got this to me. Again, if you adopt it, that's what we're going to go by, and it is going to be their handbook for usage in their job as a monitor and a bus driver. There is nobody here who has a greater appreciation for how tough it is to drive a school bus in school now. School bus driving is tough. So we want to give them the tools they need so that we can get kids, students, back and forth to school on time and safely. This handbook will be given to all bus drivers, all monitors, and they will be held accountable to it. Again, there's nothing in here works a hardship. I don't even know about the cell phones in there. I didn't see the cell phones. Hopefully they won't be using cell phones while they're driving a bus.
Do you recommend this, Mr. Wright?
Yes, sir, we spent a whole year with the bus transportation department, and we have also spent on the state, and brought back information, to put that book together. So we've gotten information from a lot of different people.
Based on the bus supervisor's recommendation and the superintendent's recommendation, I move that we accept the operator's handbook as printed.
Well, just one second. I have one question. It does address cell phones. It says they're not allowed to have it.
Good.
No, the student, not the bus driver.
Where?
Students are not allowed to possess cell phones, radios, or other electronic devices on the bus. So those kids we just allowed to have it in high school are going to get it taken away on the bus. So I don't think they need to have a radio or other electronic devices, but I think we ought to address that.
What page are you on?
Oh, I'm on page, hold on, I think I'm on page 18, hold on,
Are we in the bus monitor's book?
19. Yes, sir. Am I on the right book? Maybe I'm on a different book. Bus driver, monitors, operators handbook, page 19.
I guess that is inconsistent. If we tell them they can have it in school, but you can't have it on the bus, that is a little inconsistent. Coach,
We can make it just like the school.
they're not allowed to use a cell phone while on the bus. Would that be?
Do we care if they use it on the bus?
Coach, Mr. Creel, Mr. McDonald?
What do y'all think?
It's going to be awful tough to ban the earphones on the buses. I'm just telling you. Those kids stand out there for 30 to 45 minutes in the mornings. As soon as they step on that bus, you're going to make them take it off. Same thing on the way home. I mean, that's going to be a booger monster. So, yes.
If we allow to have it on the bus,
As long as it's not a distraction.
Right. That's a fine line too, sir. Because, the inspiration leads to distraction.
Oh, the music?
Well, yes, sir, it can.
if they're playing the music through the speaker part of it, you got 60 kids, students. We don't haul goats, do we? If you've got 60 students with a cell phone all playing through the speaker, yeah, that would be a distraction. If they're going to play music through the earphones, then that would not be.
I think we can leave it up to y'all to make some adjustment to the policy that would make it consistent with what we're allowing them to do in school. How about that?
We'll look at this tomorrow. With that exception, would you adopt this thing?
Yes. Make a motion that we accept the bus driver monitor operator's handbook with the understanding that we'll address the inconsistency in cell phone possession.
Been moved and properly second. Do we have any other questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
AT&T would be proud of us.
There we go.
Memorandum of Understanding for the City of Vicksburg, America Reads.
Okay, this is just a general comment, Mr. Chairman. At the last board meeting at Beechwood Elementary, during the retirement ceremony and following, this board really did not accept the city's approach to operating this America Reads because the administrative costs were going to be more than 60%, according to the presenter. Now, three different board members questioned that immediately because most administrative costs are 15% or less. So one board member decided, I don't know where she got the information, but that the director of that program was drawing her salary for the city of Vicksburg from that program. Now, if that's true, the school system does not need to be a partner in that type of operation. We are not in the business of approving programs that have 60 or better percent administrative costs based on our reputation as a business. So,
And to add to that, I don't see this memorandum of understanding, because we kept going back and forth as to there was going to be a summer reading program, if I'm not mistaken, and what percentage of that money was going to be spent on the children, what was going to be spent on teachers. We wanted to ensure that we were hiring qualified teachers, we were using our teachers, and that our teachers were being paid the prevailing wage.
yeah.
I don't see any of that. I did ask Ms. Johnson questions about this, and in the end, would a child benefit from this? Yes, but I have serious questions that it's really going to be that beneficial. It seems like we're eating up a lot of the cost, a lot of the grant in overhead versus taking it directly to the kids.
We generally agree that reading is the most important subject taught in public education. On the other hand, we want to be careful about getting kind of haywire on these big expense items that we're not getting immediate results from. So,
And there is no cost to the district on this, correct?
correct. Except reputation. Is there anyone here from the city that can explain the city side of it?
Can I make a motion, we table it till they address those issues?
Second.
Been moved and properly second. We table
Once again.
17.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Ms. Johnson has spoken with this lady a couple of times, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if there's any kind of a timeline on this or not. Do you?
Yes, sir. In the memorandum that you all have, they asked that this be approved for June through August. And that was it.
So we wait until July to deal with it again. The time is basically gone, right?
Yes, sir.
So by the end of July, when we would meet again, school's going to be started and it's going to be kind of academic, I guess.
Mr. Superintendent, can't you direct the Assistant Superintendent to get these questions answered for us? Because she was in on the conversation before.
We can get the questions answered, but when will you act on it if you wait until July the 20 whatever?
25th.
Then
too late.
You're going to be really too
Take the
late.
telephone
to
vote.
impact it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's up to y'all. I mean, we'll do what you
Can
want.
I ask a question? Ms. Johnson, did y'all discuss this, what the board questioned before about high administrative costs? Marie Thompson and the other lady and you and I and Mr. Pratt, we all had questions that night.
There were several questions from the board about the administrative costs. When this grant was written, the board was not, no one in the district was included in the writing of this grant. We saw it in the paper just as board members did. And so when they came to us to partner, we received the grant in the manner that the board did. The addition is, they did go out and seek an additional $10,000 because we complained about the same thing that the board had concerns about. So they sought an additional $10,000 from Target, which they got, to support this grant. So it would be a total of $16,000 that would be used for the students. But that does not deter from the way the grant was written. The grant was written and approved by the company they got it approved through. So it's either the board chooses to accept it in the amended form, because we can't go back and change what was already granted.
So if we don't approve it with the current time frame, they still have the money. Because I think before they got the money, we've been trying to work something out in this previous school year, but they could never get their act together. Which it seems like after the last board meeting, they didn't understand what we asked them. Thought we spoke English. Maybe we give them another chance and we don't have a summer program, but we'll do something in the fall if we can come up with something. But I think it's a waste of money if we're spending all that money on administrative costs. They have pulled the wool over someone's eyes to give them that money, and they're going to spend all that money for nothing and give such a small amount of it actually to the kids as part of a program.
And I cannot explain I've never seen the original grant itself, the application process. I've only had access to what this board has had access to, with the exception of going back and working with them, trying to make it more appropriate for the school district. But so I cannot go back and tell you why the city wrote it like that and why it was approved like that. So right now, we're only dealing with, there was $6,000 remaining in the grant. They applied for an additional $10,000. So they came back and asked if we would eliminate, since the last board meeting, if we would remove everything except for providing them support with the curriculum to help the children. So it goes back to what you said, Mr. Pratt. Will that $16,000 help some kids within this time frame? Yes. Do we all feel that it's appropriate? This board does not feel that, and quite frankly, we don't either as far as the allocation of salaries. But the bottom line is, will that $16 within this time frame help some children this summer? And at no cost to the school district? Yes, sir.
I'm all for helping the children, but I think we're being shammed with a high salaried individual writing a grant with such a small amount going to the schools and wanting the school to set the
Give it legitimacy.
agreement
They're asking us to give it legitimacy.
This is out of line. And I'm a grant writer from way back. I've written dozens of them. It never runs more than 15%.
The last thing that the board questioned, and just caused, was there was apparently some miscommunication between the city, Ms. Ashford, and the board as far as the cost per ticket, the compensation for the employees. And so I just wanted to remind you that what you did bring that up. That was clarified, but right now that component, to my understanding, is not
And
factored into this.
one last thing to consider when you check on these things, we don't know that Marie Thompson's going to be there after next week. The city administration changes.
Right.
And she was hired by Mr. Winfield, and you'll have a new mayor Monday.
Could I make this suggestion? Go ahead, Coach.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes, sir.
will it be our teachers that'll be doing the program?
At the last presentation in May over in Vicksburg, what she said she was going to do was, it was a double conversation, honestly. She said she was going to use the AmeriCorps representatives. Mr. LaVazza questioned whether they were teachers, and that part, I had to clarify that for you because I didn't want you to be misled. They were not teachers. They were teachers back in February, but because of the amount of money, we could not do that. They didn't have the funds to do it. So the AmeriCorps are like teacher assistants who will be working with children.
They're using the school system to get AmeriCorps people, to allow AmeriCorps people to make extra money. That's what it amounts to, in my opinion.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
You had a motion to table it. I don't know, did you get a second?
We got a second, but we'll
We
leave
hadn't
it.
voted.
No,
No, we're still in the question.
What just crossed my mind, and Joe, excuse me, Mr. Levine.
I don't mind.
It might be good to go ahead and table it and let us deal or meet with the new administration after this weekend when the dust settles. Because we've got 2 new city officers, and we got, there's going to be probably some other people up there, city clerk or whatever. And it may be a good thing for us to see if they even want to do it.
I'm fine with presenting my motion to table it, but I would like, maybe could we give you the authority to satisfactorily answer these questions so that we as a district are not supporting a program that is...
I would want you to table it.
Okay.
And then let us talk with the new administration. They may have a whole different concept of this and answer
Okay.
these questions that you're asking. And if we have to, I'll go chase you down
Okay.
and let you know.
All right, well,
But
okay.
there's enough unrest about this among the board members that I don't think we need to approve it.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries to table 17. Mr. Pratt, supplement coaches.
Yeah, we had approved the coaching supplement schedule, and in going back and look at it, because we have so many kids, I can't pull it up. They're all getting sucking up that free internet, you know. It's probably my children. Yeah, so the supplement we have approved, in light of the fact that we are making some pretty significant cuts in what we're doing in the district, and that salary schedule, coaching supplement schedule that we approved, basically gave increases for extra duties. Have we considered possibly making a modification to that and freezing that for a year as we work through these hard times versus creating havoc on some of our programs and not sharing the pain across the board?
To be frank with you, no. When we adopted it, I just accepted it. Mr. McClung has it, and I don't know whether he's written all the contracts or not, but
Have not written those letters to coaches are separate from. Generally speaking, anybody that has over 25 years as a coach, they would not get any additional funds, and the steps from each year experience is relatively small.
it would be y'all's call to make. You'd have to rescind what
I think
you
if
did.
you look at some of the supplements that we give for certain sports, and I'm not going to point them out, the 3-month sport, and we're giving $12,000 supplement. I want that job. I can't apply for that one, can I? So I mean, that's a lot of money, and you add those up, they get a step on top of that. I mean, every little bit counts in this effort to be very cost conscious in the current situation that we have, and I would like to ask that we take a look at that and see what the savings would be, and since we haven't issued any contracts, take a look at what are the savings that are out there.
And Coach Wright will have to help me because this was developed over the past couple of years, I think. And I don't know who all was involved in the development of it. If we change it, then you're gonna have to come back and reapprove it. And how much of a delay that's gonna be on getting contracts out. Dale, you tell me.
Well, we don't have to give they're here to teach, not to coach. I want to make sure that's clear for everyone that's here. We hire teachers, not
I
coaches.
understand that,
But I think we can wait on that. We don't have to give that out right now. Right?
I'd like to have it firmed up by August the 31st when they get their first check.
That'll work. We ought to be able to do that by the next meeting.
So let me get this straight, you're asking for us to relook at the coaching supplements across the board?
Based on what the work entails, and I know do you go off of a activity association schedule, Coach?
No, this was put together at the time when Dr. Price was here, and we went all over the state looking at, salaries, and we came up with something that was competitive.
How do we rank as far as other schools?
I would say right now, as old as those pay scales are, that we would probably be even or behind, because they're updated. We haven't updated ours in a while. So like I said, Dr. Price brought those in.
If we could evaluate where we stand with everybody else, but also to evaluate, does it make sense to pay $12,000 for a coach to assist with an activity that only lasts 2 months? I mean, that's
Mr. Pratt, you're not particularly interested in the amount they're getting in addition to that.
I'm interested in all of it.
You're interested in seeing if we can maybe cut them in half. So
I want to see what savings can be gained, if it makes sense what we're paying them.
to freeze them, it would be probably very little. I can get you that information.
I would like to consider freezing them as a minimum, and the other is to consider if there needs to be any cuts to those based on the current situation we're in. Because if we're cutting teachers that are teaching students, but we're still funding our extra curricular activities and that such at a full amount, it doesn't seem to be equitable. If we're going to take a hit, we need to take a hit across the board.
Well, I'd like to mention that cutting the teachers is necessitated by the fact that we increased our staff so much last year. We had about 90 positions added last year. That's about $4.5 million. That's where the problem is with this budget that we have now. Overstaffing. Not, it probably was a good thing to do in good times, but not in the times that we're in right now. The state's not giving us any more money. We're not willing to go to the local taxpayer, and we cannot continue to spend our rainy day funds and our 16th section interest.
I agree with you 110%, but we're not going to save our district into prosperity. We need to be very frugal with every dime we spend, but we need to be very careful that the cuts we make aren't going to send us 20 years behind where we are right now.
But we just need to watch. I told Dr. Swinford this. Watch your staffing. Watch staffing. We had an individual who watched every teacher that left the district. They were replaced person by person. We did not add, an example, Scholastic Academy. I'm all for anything that would help and improve the educational opportunity of the students. But you have to look at the cost. And that was $500,000 of staff, and we were talking today, it was additional about $400,000 to build those classes, not build the classrooms, but furnish the classrooms and supply computers. So that's $900,000.
But I believe the numbers prove that Scholastic Academy was successful, correct? Correct, Ms. Johnson?
I'm not a curriculum person, so.
From an academic standpoint, the numbers prove that we were successful.
Actually, from an academic standpoint, those kids outscored every other group in the entire district that was working over there from the AP classes. I mean, in honors classes, there were little kids groups that outscored those kids. So yes, sir, and it was, yes.
Thank you. So, I would just like us to revisit that and to see if there's any savings. There may not be, but see if you can find some recommendations.
You know, on the defense of the coaches, you know, every sport has a season, but mostly all coaches that are worth their salt, their season go all year round. They never stop working. They have a season where they compete, but they have all through that year of preparing and keeping their kids in a certain condition and mental state of winning. And when you take a coach, if we would pay a coach by hour, we couldn't afford it.
But could we pay them by performance? Because this one example I've got, I don't think they've won. There's not a student that's gotten a scholarship from that group, and this person's making $20,000 a year in supplements. And I'd like to see us spend money like we do in our fine arts, when every dollar comes back to us 10 times, versus nope, it's pay for performance. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, you know.
Well, when Mr. Oaks and I were principals 100 years ago, it didn't matter if you worked 60 hours a week or 40 hours a week, the pay was the same. And I'm not saying that it should have to be that way forever. I'm just saying that if you enjoy your work and you're in it to help the children, you know, you're willing to put in that extra time. And I don't say we need to wear the folks out, but we know what the salary scale pays when we come on board.
Y'all tell us what you want us to do.
I'd like to ask that we relook at it to see if there's some opportunities, and let you tell us there's not, we'll go with your recommendation.
Well, at this time, you're going to have to make sure that you know that it's already been approved, so we'd have to come back into board meeting and undo what we've already done, if that be the case. So if it's not, then it's on go because it's already approved, Mr.
So
Superintendent.
do we want to unapprove it and then bring it back at the next meeting?
You're going to have to do that, because right now it flows through.
We just make a motion, we unapprove the current coaching supplement schedule and bring it back next board meeting per recommendation to the superintendent as to how to proceed.
There's a motion. Do you have any questions? Is there a second? Is there a second? You died for a lack of second.
There you go. We see where our priorities are.
At this time,
Is it me?
you're up, sir.
Do I need to stand up? I want to be sure everybody gets a good shot. I don't want to make light of this, okay? And I fully understand the sensitivity of what we're talking about here. That with Mr. Creel and Mr. McDonald, I was totally unaware up until I met with them that there was ever any consideration in the sense of we would have 6 band directors. I know somebody had talked to me about that early on, long before I ever became the interim superintendent. My charge, as I understood it from the board, was to act as superintendent until such time as they hire somebody, and to do what I could do, make recommendations to address the financial bind that the district is in. Now, you've heard Mr. McClung, he talked about how many millions of dollars and so on. And I understand it. My commitment was to do everything we could to protect what goes on in the classroom. Now, when we got to talking about this, it was to have the 6th band director at each high school. Without being disrespectful to anybody here, between Joe and I have probably the most years in building schedules for schools. In all the years that I was at Warren Central and been associated with it, we've never had more than 5 band directors. That's always been the standard. At one time, we had 5 band directors. They handled, I believe, 8 or 9 elementary schools, 6th grade bands. And let me say this up front. There's nobody sitting in here that is any stronger supporter of the 6th grade band than I am. For 2 reasons. One, I had 3 children go through the 6th grade band. Made a world of difference with them when they made it to junior high because they were a part of a group. Identification. So I'm a strong supporter of the 6th grade band. We can do the 6th grade band with 5 band directors. That's not a problem. Now, talking to Mr. Arundel, his question or his statement to me was we wanted to start 6th grade band the 1st of August or whenever we started the school. Well, in the past, when I was dealing with it, we never started until marching season was over. Some of you in here may be old enough to remember Gary Cook. Anybody? Gary Cook would not start 6th grade band until he got through with Big Blue and marching season. I understand why. He wanted that to be his focus, the junior high and the high school. We can do the 6th grade band with 5 band directors. It's a scheduling thing and can be done. In fact, it can be done easier than we used to do it because we got fewer elementary schools. Be that as it may, the issue is not whether we have 6th grade band. We're going to have 6th grade band. The issue, and I know why you're here, is that 6th band director that does the drum line. Without anybody saying anything, just nod your head. Is that the issue? That's what I thought. Looked like a bobblehead doll. When I looked at the numbers and looked at the money, it was my decision not to recommend that 6th band director. Told the board members, that's my recommendation. I am their employee. If they choose to spend the money to hire them, I don't have a problem with it. I love the band. 3 kids through the band. 2 of them got scholarships to go to college with the band. So I know all about that. Support it, think it's great. But I have to use the judgment that I've got when I look at the cost of this. Do we have a band director? And this is a rhetorical question now, so don't answer it. Do we have a band director that can do the drum line? I don't know, because I don't know 2 notes from the 3rd. I don't know. That's where the band directors come in. If we have nobody that can do a drum line, then it may be we need to look at the band directors that we have. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I can evaluate band directors. That was my stance. That's my position. Obviously, by the number of emails I've gotten, the phone calls that I've gotten, the voodoo dolls have been bought with men sticks in them. And my son called me from Grand Gulf, and he's getting called. And I'm not going to tell you what he said to the person that called, because he said, I never have been able to control him to start with, and I'm not going to try now. And Mary Louise brings a picture of her grandson. So if you don't think that's being browbeating somebody, just deal with her. All joking aside, that's my recommendation. Again, I have no problem if the board decides that's what they want to do. Now, I don't want to put the monkey on their back. My recommendation is we go with 5 band directors. They obviously can overrule me with anything. If I was lucky, they'd fire me tonight and I'd go home. But the point is, that was my recommendation. It is up to them to decide if they want to support it, put it on hold for a month, or what. It is, two things. It's a money thing, and it's a utilization of personnel. To do the sixth grade band, we don't need it. Do we need it for the drum line? That's a call that apparently most people in here, probably everybody, thinks. That's where I stand, Mr. President. I'll be glad to take any slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that you'd love to throw.
We just had a vote just a minute ago regarding coaching supplements, and we didn't want to look at it to be fair across the board. So we now know where we stand with that. But dollar for dollar, every dollar we spend in fine arts comes back to us tenfold. Every child that's in Big Blue that wants to go to Hines Community College and participate in the band has what? Has a scholarship. I don't think every one of our football players, our basketball players, our softball players has that opportunity. We are servicing more kids with our fine art program. It's the only thing we seem to always fall back on when we want to find successes in our district, and to mess with it is a shame. It's disgraceful. If we're going to spend our money wisely, and if we're going to cut, then we need to cut. And we don't need to buy letter jackets for any other activity or sport, because we don't buy them for the band. We need to be fair to all of our kids, and we need to make sure we're doing things across the board.
We do buy.
No.
Wait, well, hold on just
No,
a
we do.
second.
We do. We buy them for the football team. We buy them for every other sport except for the band. The band boosters buy their own, which is probably the way it should be. But if we're going to be fair to our children, and if we are going to show them what is right, and that we respect each one of them as individuals, and every one of them has something individual and great to contribute, whether they're on the football field or playing a drum, then we need to do things fairly. And what we just did to this coaching supplement, and what we're going to do to hijack our bands, is disgraceful. And I think everyone out there needs to continue to voice their opinion, because we're going to mess up something that we have that's working right in our district. And I don't know what we're going to take a picture of and put in the paper if we mess this up.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been real quiet tonight, but now is my time to talk. Let me say that I was in the band, but let's talk about disgrace. Disgrace is what we've done 2.5 years, okay? Now, band, I played trumpet, French horn, and baritone. I love the band, if you want to know about that. But here is the thing. When I ask you, do you want your taxes raised, what are you all going to do?
Who wants their taxes raised to pay for the band? Amen.
Well,
Amen.
I tell you what, let me get another group out there, and you're going to see them do this right here, okay? Now, you know, it's 6 in one hand and a half a dozen in the other, okay? But the band teaches you math. It teaches you how to read. It teaches you a lot about life. But saying it's a disgrace because we don't have 6, when I was in school, we only had 3 band directors, and we were all superior. ALL, all superior. So don't tell me about being superior and you had 6 band directors and all of that. It's not that. If a band director can teach, he or she, he can tell the band people what to do. And I'm a living proof of it. But what you got to do is this. You got to make a choice of raising your taxes or letting us do what we're supposed to do. And it's left up to you to make that choice. But you all are in here, but we go outside, it's going to be another northern one saying no, don't raise my taxes, because I've gotten a bunch of phone calls where it says, don't raise my taxes.
Sturgis,
Yes, sir.
Again on this, my daughter was in Pride, and I love the band. And when you come in trying to prepare something that's already in place, and then add. I didn't say add a coach. I said leave the coaches like it is. Now, we talking about adding, and we say we have a deficit already. So now we adding to the deficit. When first thing we need to see is talk to the band directors and see, do they think it can be done? And my superintendent here think it can be done. So,
I don't think the band directors think that, but
Well, be sure to understand, I don't know about the drum line. Don't ask me about the drum line.
and the
I'm talking
position
about
we're filling is a position that we're not adding. We hired 2 band directors last year so we would have 6th grade band. We had 2 percussion directors, both from Vicksburg High and from Warren Central, leave. We are replacing positions that were vacated because someone left to go to another district. So we're not asking to add, coming up with something new that we've never had before. We have a great indoor percussion. What do you hear when the band marches out on the field? You hear the drum line. What do you hear? What do we take great pride in saying that we beat? Brandon, Madison, Clinton, all those people we get compared to was because we had a great drum line. Vicksburg High, we spent all this money on instruments last year, $300,000, so we could expand to the 6th grade and provide our band new instruments for. The drum line was a substantial amount of it. And now we're going to basically not take advantage of that. I hope we have something else we're going to be able to celebrate. I hope we have some other way of motivating these children. And I hope we can save ourselves into success. So y'all go right ahead.
We've spent ourselves and don't have much success,
We
so
have-
saving is
Yeah.
probably the next best thing we need to do.
Yeah.
Do we have any other on this, on the fine arts? No other? At this time, is there a motion to go into closed session?
And wait, we got some personnel to do.
Oh, I thought we'd already approved that through,
This
is that still part of the consent agenda? No. Okay. G is not a consent agenda, okay.
G is personnel that we're hiring to fill vacant slots, to fill the slots that we need to get school started. I caution you, this is probably not going to be all of them, because we got some more slots that we're trying to develop. But G1, G2 is some change in status of certain individuals. G3 is certified recommendations. We have an awful lot of resignations this year. And G4 is a change in status for certified, moving from one job to another within the school district. Now G5, did I miss that one?
No, you have
Certified resignations. There's some resignations you'll have to act on. Now, G6, we interviewed the last 2 days for a principal at Redwood. I think we had 9 or 10 people that we interviewed. Dr. Winters, Mr. Wright, Ms. Johnson, and I. And it is my recommendation after the interviews that Mr. Leandrew Drake, who is currently an assistant principal at Warren Central, be moved to Redwood as principal. That involves a change in status for him from an assistant to a principal. Interestingly enough, according to our salary schedule, it doesn't pay him any more money. So he's simply moving from Warren Central as assistant to Redwood as a principal.
Is that because of the number of days, or?
It's a number of days, yeah.
Well, I personally have confidence in our superintendent and principals to make the recommendations that they feel will do the best job for our children. So my motion is that we approve these across the board.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
I told them all, if they don't do the job, I'm gonna beat them up.
At this time, we are at H. Is there a motion to go into closed session to determine the agenda for executive session?
Make a motion that we go into closed session to determine the agenda for executive session.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.